The royal procession happened once a year. The same route through the capital. The same choreographed precision. The same display of power and pageantry that had marked the kingdom for 300 years. Every step was planned. Every gesture rehearsed. Every moment calculated to remind the people that their Alpha King was untouchable, unreachable, absolute. I'd seen it 6 times in my life. 6 times standing in the crowd while the nobility passed in their gilded carriages, while the guards marched in perfect formation, while the Alpha King rode by on his massive black stallion, looking neither left nor right, acknowledging no one. A living statue, a symbol, not a man. This year, the 7th year, I almost didn't come. I was nobody. An Omega working in a baker's shop on the east side of the city. No family, no pack, I'd no prospects. The kind of person who blended into crowds and disappeared without notice. The kind of person an Alpha King would never, could never, should never see. But Mira, the baker's daughter, my only friend, had begged me to come. "Just once more, Olara," she'd said. "Come watch with me. Who knows, maybe this year something interesting will happen." So I went. I stood in the crowd on Market Street, pressed between bodies, barely able to see over the taller wolves in front of me. The drums started. The horns blared. The procession began. First came the bannermen, then the guards, then the nobles in their fine carriages, then the Alpha King. Even from a distance, even through the crowd, I felt him. That weight, that presence, that absolute authority that made every wolf within 100 yards instinctively lower their eyes. He rode a black stallion that was almost as intimidating as its rider, wore armor that gleamed like liquid silver. His face was hidden beneath a ceremonial helm, but I didn't need to see his features to know what everyone knew. Alpha King Damien was beautiful, powerful, completely alone, no mate, no heir, no softness anywhere in his perfectly controlled existence. Just the crown, just the throne. Just 300 years of tradition that had turned him into more symbol than man. The crowd around me went silent as he passed, heads bowed, eyes lowered. I should have done the same. I don't know why I didn't. Maybe it was the loneliness I'd been drowning in for years. Maybe it was the desperate, stupid hope that someone, anyone, would see me. Really see me. Just once. Maybe it was fate. I raised my hand, and I waved. Chapter 1. The moment. It wasn't a grand gesture, not a dramatic flourish, not a calculated bid for attention. Just a small, tentative wave, the kind you give to someone you think you recognize across a crowded room. The kind that says, "I see you. Do you see me?" I don't know what I expected. For him to ride past without noticing, probably. For the moment to pass unremarked. For me to lower my hand feeling foolish and return to my invisible life. I didn't expect him to stop, but he did. The stallion halted mid-stride, so abruptly that the guards behind nearly crashed into him. The entire procession stuttered, faltered, ground to a confused, unprecedented halt. The Alpha King sat absolutely still on his mount. Then, slowly, so slowly it felt like the world was holding its breath, he turned his head and looked directly at me. I couldn't see his eyes through the helm, couldn't see his expression, but I felt his attention like a physical touch, like being pinned by lightning, like standing at the center of a storm that had just noticed I existed. The crowd around me went deathly silent. Did he just... Why did he stop? Who is he looking at? The king dismounted. The movement was smooth, practiced, but entirely unplanned, entirely outside the rigid choreography of the procession. He handed the reins to a guard who looked absolutely panicked. "Your Majesty," the guard stammered. "The route, the schedule." The king ignored him. He was walking. Toward the crowd. Toward Market Street. Toward me. Oh gods, Mira breathed beside me. Ilara, what did you do? I don't know, I whispered. My hand was still raised, still frozen in that stupid, desperate wave. I didn't, the crowd parted. Not gently, not politely. People scrambled backward like the ocean pulling away from shore, desperate to clear a path, desperate not to be in the way of whatever was happening. The Alpha King walked through the gap they created, 30 feet away, 20, 10. He stopped directly in front of me. Up close, he was impossibly tall. The armor made him look like something carved from starlight and steel. The ceremonial helm hid his face completely. We stared at each other. The entire city had gone silent, thousands of people holding their breath. Then he reached up and removed the helm. I'd seen portraits. Everyone had. But portraits were nothing. He was beautiful in a way that hurt. Sharp features. Silver blonde hair pulled back in a warrior's knot. Eyes the color of winter storms. Gray with hints of blue, ancient and intense and absolutely focused on me. Those eyes looked at me like I was the only person in the world. Like the thousands of people watching didn't exist. Like nothing existed except this moment. You, he said. His voice was deep, rough, like he hadn't used it for real conversation in years. You waved at me. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. Yes, my voice shook. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I shouldn't have. Why? Why did I wave? Yes. I stared at him. At this king who'd stopped an entire royal procession to ask me why I'd waved. Because you looked lonely, I said quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. His eyes widened, just slightly. Just enough to show I'd surprised him. Lonely, he repeated. Yes. I couldn't seem to stop talking. Everyone was bowing and looking away and treating you like you weren't even human. Like you were just a symbol. And I thought... I stopped, swallowed. I thought maybe you were tired of being a symbol. Maybe you wanted someone to see you. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he did something that made the crowd gasp. He smiled. Not a political smile. Not a ceremonial expression. A real smile. Warm. Surprised. Achingly human. What's your name? He asked. Ilara. I could barely breathe. Ilara Ashwood. Ilara. He said it like he was tasting it, learning it. I know who you are, Your Majesty. Damien. His smile grew. When we're speaking like this, when it's just us, call me Damien. There are 10,000 people watching us right now, I said faintly. It's not exactly just us. Then they can learn to look away. He stepped closer, and I felt it. The snap of recognition. The sudden, overwhelming certainty that rocked through my entire being. Mate? This was my mate. This impossible, untouchable king, this man I'd waved to on impulse, was my fated pair. From the look on his face, he felt it too. Oh, he breathed. Oh, that's... He stopped. Stared at me with something like wonder. You felt that. Yes. The bond. Yes. I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. His voice had gone soft, awed. 32 years, and I find you here, in a crowd, because you waved at me. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away. I didn't. His hand cupped my cheek. Warm, despite the armor. Gentle, despite the strength. What happens now? I whispered. Now? His thumb stroked my cheekbone. Now I do something I've never done in my entire reign. What's that? I put myself first. He turned to face the crowd. The guards. The nobles frozen in their carriages. The entire procession that had ground to a halt. The royal procession, he announced, his voice carrying through the absolute silence, is concluded. Everyone return to your posts. The festivities will continue as planned. Your Majesty, One of the guards stepped forward. The route isn't complete. The protocols are less important than this moment. Damien didn't look away from me. I've just found my mate. Everything else can wait. Gasps rippled through the crowd. But Your Majesty, she's an Omega. She's my Omega. His voice went hard, cold, absolutely unyielding. My fated mate, chosen by the moon herself. And if anyone has a problem with that, they can take it up with me directly. The guard paled, bowed, backed away. Damien turned back to me. "Will you come with me?" he asked. "To the palace, so we can talk somewhere private. Somewhere that isn't the middle of Market Street with 10,000 people staring." I looked around, at the crowd, at Mira, who was staring at me with her mouth open, at the impossible situation I'd just created by waving at a king. "I don't belong in a palace. You belong with me." He said it with absolute certainty. Everything else is just geography. Think this is a fairy tale? Think the court will simply accept an unknown Omega as their future Luna? Wait until you see what happens when we reach the palace. Wait until you discover why the Alpha King has been unmated for 32 years. Stay with me, because this story is about to get complicated. Chapter 2. The Palace. They gave me a room, not servants' quarters, not a guest chamber. The Luna's suite. Rooms that had been empty for 32 years, since Damien's mother died when he was born. I stood in the center of silk and gold and ancient tapestries, and tried to understand how my life had changed in the span of an hour. "You'll need clothes," Damien said from the doorway. He'd removed the armor, stood in simple black that somehow made him look more regal, not less. "I'll send for seamstresses. Whatever you need, whatever you want." "I don't need Ilara." He crossed to me, took my hands. "I know this is overwhelming. I know you didn't ask for this. But please, let me take care of you. Let me show you what it means to be a mate's priority." "Why?" The question burst out before I could stop it. "Why are you doing this? You don't know me. You don't know anything about me except that I waved at you and the bond snapped." The bond snapped. He said it like those 3 words explained everything. "Do you know how rare that is? How impossible? Most fated pairs feel a pull, an attraction, a slow building certainty. But this," he pressed my hand to his chest, "this instant recognition, this absolute knowing, this only happens once in 1,000 years. His heart was racing under my palm. "I've spent 32 years ruling alone," he said quietly. 32 years with advisors telling me to take a political mate, to marry for alliance, to produce an heir regardless of whether I loved the person I was bound to. "Why didn't you?" "Because I made a vow." His eyes held mine. "When I was 18 and newly crowned, I swore I would only mate for love, only bond with someone the moon chose for me. And if that meant ruling alone my entire life," he shrugged, "then I'd rule alone. I couldn't find words. That's incredibly romantic and incredibly stupid." He laughed. Actually laughed. The sound transformed his face. "Probably," he agreed. "But I'm stubborn. It's a family trait. Your advisors must hate me. My advisors can learn to adapt." His thumb stroked my hand. "You're my mate, my fated pair. Everything else is negotiable." A knock at the door interrupted us. "Enter," Damien called. A man stepped in. Older, gray-haired, wearing the robes of a high counselor. He looked at me with barely concealed horror. "Your Majesty," he said tightly. "Might I speak with you? Privately?" "No." Damien didn't move from my side. "Anything you need to say to me, you can say in front of my mate." "Your Majesty, this is highly irregular. So is stopping a royal procession. So is claiming a mate in the middle of Market Street. I am having an irregular day, Chancellor Marcus. Get used to it." The Chancellor's jaw tightened. The council has questions about this Omega. Her name is Alara. About Alara, then. He looked at me like I was something unpleasant. We need to verify her background, her lineage, her suitability to be Luna. The moon verified her suitability when she chose Alara as my mate. Damien's voice went cold. Everything else is formality. Formality that has kept this kingdom stable for 300 years, Your Majesty. The Chancellor's voice was tight. We cannot simply install an unknown Omega as Luna without proper investigation, without ensuring she's not a threat, without... Are you suggesting my mate is a threat to the crown? I'm suggesting we know nothing about her. The Chancellor gestured at me. She could be anyone. A spy. A plant. Someone with ulterior motives. I felt Damien's fury through the bond, felt him preparing to unleash it. I stepped forward before he could. You're right, I said quietly. Both men stared at me. You don't know anything about me, I continued. I'm nobody, an Omega who works in a bakery, no family, no pack, no connections to power or politics. I met the Chancellor's eyes. So, investigate me, question me, dig into my past. You won't find anything because there's nothing to find. I'm exactly what I appear to be, an ordinary person who waved at a king and discovered he was my mate. I turned to Damien. But if you need time, I said, if you need to be sure, I understand. I can wait. I can... No. His hand found mine. I don't need time. I don't need investigations. I need you. He turned to the Chancellor. You have 24 hours, he said. Investigate all you want. Dig into every corner of Alara's life. And when you find exactly what she said you'd find, nothing sinister, nothing suspicious, just an ordinary, extraordinary woman, you will apologize to her, publicly, in front of the full court. Your Majesty, 24 hours, Marcus. After that, we're moving forward with the bonding ceremony, with or without the Council's approval. The Chancellor's face went pale. Your Majesty, you cannot. I can. I will. Damien's eyes were winter itself. I've waited 32 years for my mate. I've ruled alone. I've put the kingdom first in every decision. But this is mine. She's mine. And I'm done waiting. The Chancellor left. I turned to Damien. That was necessary. He pulled me close. I meant every word. I don't care what they find. I don't care if you're the daughter of kings or the daughter of beggars. You're my mate. That's all that matters. But what if they refuse? What if the council won't accept me? Then I'll get a new council. He said it like it was simple, like overturning 300 years of tradition was easy. Alara, look at me. I did. I've spent my entire life being what everyone else needed me to be, he said quietly. The perfect king. The strong alpha. The symbol of stability. I've sacrificed everything. Friends, freedom, the chance at a normal life. For the crown. He cupped my face in his hands. But the one thing I swore I would never sacrifice was this. Was love. Was the chance to be with my true mate. His eyes were fierce. So let them investigate. Let them object. Let them throw every obstacle they can think of in our path. I don't care. He kissed my forehead. Gentle. Reverent. You waved at me, he whispered. In a crowd of thousands, you saw me. Not the king. Not the symbol. Me. And I'm not letting that go. I'm not letting you go. I'm scared, I admitted. So am I. He smiled slightly. But we'll be scared together. You think the investigation will come back clean? You think this is really that simple? Wait until you discover what the Chancellor finds. Wait until you learn the real reason an Omega with no family, no pack, no past ended up in that crowd at that exact moment. Stay with me. The truth is coming, and it's going to change everything. Chapter 3. The Secret. The investigation took 18 hours. I spent them in the Luna's suite, surrounded by luxury I didn't understand, wearing silk that felt wrong against my skin. Damien visited when he could, between council meetings and state business and the 1,000 demands of being king. But mostly, I was alone with my thoughts, with the creeping certainty that something was wrong, that this was too easy, too perfect. That fate didn't work this way. The summons came at dawn. "The council wishes to speak with you," a guard said, polite, distant. "If you'll follow me." Damien met me outside the council chamber. "Whatever they've found," he said quietly, "whatever they say, I'm with you. Remember that." "You've seen the report?" "No, they wouldn't show me. Said it was too sensitive to share before the formal presentation." His jaw was tight. "Which tells me they found something they think will change my mind. And if it does?" "It won't." He took my hand. "Ready?" "No." "Good. Me neither." We entered together. The council chamber was full. Every seat occupied. Every face turned toward us with expressions ranging from concern to barely concealed satisfaction. Chancellor Marcus stood at the center. "Your Majesty," he said, "we've completed our investigation into the Omega." "Her name is Alara," Damien said coldly. "Into Alara Ashwood. And we've discovered some concerning information." My heart sank. "Show me," Damien said. The Chancellor opened a folder, handed a single sheet of parchment to the king. I watched Damien's face as he read, watched his expression shift from annoyance to confusion to shock. "This can't be right," he said quietly. "Oh, it's been verified, triple-checked. The records are clear." Damien looked at me. "Did you know?" "Know what?" My voice shook. I don't know what that says." He handed me the parchment. I read it, then read it again. "No," I breathed. That's impossible." Birth record, Alara Moonstone. Born spring equinox, year 2954. Father, deceased, killed in border conflict, year 2955. Mother, deceased, died in childbirth complications, year 2954. Royal bloodline, confirmed relation to current crown. Second cousin, twice removed. Moonstone, Damien said quietly. Not Ashwood. The room was spinning. "I've always been Ashwood, since I was a baby. The orphanage, they said my parents died, and I had no family, and the orphanage lied." The Chancellor's voice was ice. "Or someone lied to them. Because according to these records, you're not some random Omega with no connections. You're royal blood. Distant, yes, but royal nonetheless." Why would they hide this? I looked at the council, at their carefully blank faces. Why take a royal-blooded child and dump her in an orphanage with a false name? "That," Damien said slowly, "is an excellent question." He turned to the council. "Who knew about this?" His voice was deadly quiet. "Who knew there was a royal-blooded child being hidden in the capital?" Silence. "Answer me." Alpha command cracked through the room. "Who knew?" An older councilwoman raised her hand. "Lady Helena, I knew, Your Majesty. So did Marcus. So did most of the senior council. And you said nothing? For 23 years you let a member of the royal family grow up in poverty? In obscurity?" "It was deemed necessary." Lady Helena's voice was careful. "Your Majesty, when you were 18 and swore you would only mate for love, the council became concerned. What if you never found your fated mate? What if the bloodline died with you?" Understanding crashed through me. "You kept me as a backup," I said quietly. "A spare royal-blooded Omega. Hidden away, just in case." "We kept options available," the Chancellor said. "It was practical. It was monstrous." Damien's fury was shaking the room. "You let a child grow up abandoned, alone. poor. All so you'd have a convenient option, if I proved too stubborn to take a political mate. Your Majesty, it wasn't personal. It's incredibly personal, his roar echoed off stone. That's my mate you experimented with. My fated pair you kept in reserve like a tool to be used. He turned to me. Did they know? Did they somehow arrange this? The procession route, you being there, the bond snapping? No. Lady Helena stepped forward. Your Majesty, we had no idea she was your fated mate. If we had known, if we'd suspected, we would have introduced you years ago. Then how... Damien stopped, stared at her. The parade route. You changed it this year. Normally it goes through Noble's Row. But this year it went through Market Street, I finished quietly. Where I work, where I live. Damien's eyes were wild. You engineered this. You put her in my path. We put her where you might see her, Lady Helena said. Nothing more. The wave, the connection, the mate bond, that was all natural. All real. I created an opportunity. You manipulated us. We gave you a chance at happiness. The councilwoman's voice was steady. You swore you'd only mate for love, for a true bond. And we gave you that. A fated mate who's also royal-blooded, who can satisfy both your heart and the kingdom's need for stability. By lying to her, by hiding her heritage, by treating her like a game piece, by protecting the bloodline. Lady Helena met his eyes. Your Majesty, if you died without an heir, the kingdom would have fallen to civil war. We needed options. She was an option. And now she's also your mate. Everything worked out. Everything worked out? I heard my voice like it was coming from far away. You stole my childhood, my identity, my chance to know who I really was, all so I could be kept in reserve like a spare sword? We gave you a normal life, away from court politics, away from the pressure and danger of being known royal blood. Lady Helena looked at me. Would you rather have grown up here, surrounded by schemers, trained from birth to be a political tool? I would rather have had a choice. The shout echoed through the chamber. Everyone went silent. I would rather have known who I was, I said quietly, even if it was dangerous, even if it was hard. I deserved the truth. I turned to Damien. And now I don't know if any of this is real. The bond, the connection. Was it natural? Or did they manipulate it somehow? Did they engineer us to be compatible? No. He crossed to me, took my hands. Alara, Moonstone, whatever name you want to use. The mate bond doesn't work that way. It can't be manufactured or manipulated. The moon chooses. Not councils. Not politics. But they put me in your path. And you waved at me. His eyes were fierce. You didn't have to. Nothing forced you to raise your hand. Nothing made me stop. Nothing engineered the moment I looked at you and felt my entire world shift. He pulled me close. They may have created the opportunity, he whispered, but we created the bond. We chose each other. The moon chose us. How do you know? Because I feel it. He pressed my hand to his chest. Right here. Undeniable. Absolute. Real. I felt it too. That certainty. That pull. But I also felt the anger. The betrayal. The violation of having my entire life orchestrated by people who saw me as a tool. I need time, I said quietly, to process this. To figure out who I am now that everything I believed about myself is a lie. Take all the time you need. He kissed my forehead. I'll wait. I've waited 32 years. I can wait a little longer. He turned to the council. But while she's deciding, he said coldly, you're all going to explain exactly how this happened. Who authorized it? Who maintained it? Who kept this secret for 23 years? And then you're going to grovel. You're going to apologize to her for stealing her identity, her heritage, her choice. Your Majesty, that's an order. Epilogue. 6 months later. The coronation took place under the full moon. I stood in the Luna's silver robes, the same robes Damien's mother had worn, and tried to breathe. "Ready?" Damien asked beside me. "No," I said honestly, "but I'm doing it anyway." He smiled, took my hand. "That's my mate." We walked into the throne room together, past the council members who'd manipulated my life, past the nobles who'd whispered about the Omega from nowhere, who'd captured a king's heart. I was wearing both names now. Alara Ashwood Moonstone, the girl I'd been and the woman I was becoming. It had taken months to forgive the council, to understand their twisted logic, to accept that while their methods were monstrous, their concern for the kingdom hadn't been entirely wrong. It had taken longer to forgive Damien for the kingdom that had stolen my childhood. But the mate bond didn't lie. And whatever else was complicated, whatever else was messy and political and difficult, we were real. "I, Ilara Ashwood Moonstone," I said clearly, "accept the Luna's crown. I accept the responsibility of this kingdom. I accept the duty to protect and serve the pack." The crown settled on my head. Heavy, ancient, mine. Damien pulled me into his arms and kissed me as the court cheered. "Thank you," he whispered against my mouth, "for waving at me, for seeing me, for choosing to stay even after you learned the truth." "Thank you for stopping," I whispered back, "for abandoning 300 years of protocol because an ordinary Omega waved at you." "You were never ordinary," he smiled. "You were always mine. I just had to find you." I looked out at the crowd, at the thousands of faces watching their new Luna. Somewhere in that crowd, maybe, there was another lonely person, another Omega wondering if they'd ever be seen. I thought about waving again, but this time, I didn't need to, because I'd already been found.